we give them one more round of applause?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King. This quote is saying that in some cases justice is accepted in certain areas, whereas in others it isn't. Why can't something be okay in one place and not in the other? It is because I agree with Jason Brennan, author of When All Fails, The Ethics of Resistance to State Injustice, and professor of strategy, economics, ethics, and public policy at Georgetown University, in the position that violence is a justified response to political oppression, that I feel to compel to affirm today's resolution. For clarification of today's round, I offer the following definitions. In terms of sociology, it means not only the physical injury, but as being present where psychological harm, developmental, or deprivation occurs. Acts of omission or neglect, not only of commission, can therefore be categorized as violent. United States, the purpose of our federal government, as found in the preamble of the Constitution, is to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. The highest value within today's round is the word United States. To be specific, I want to talk about our nation's ideology, which is democracy. According to Merriam-Webster, democracy is a government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free elections. In order to find a point in this debate, I must first find out why it matters. For my affirmative stand on the resolution, I chose to talk about the United States. The way I defined it was in terms of how this nation was brought up and the purpose of the federal government / ideology, which is a democracy. Since I am for violence as a response to political oppression, I can tell how recently rights have been taken away from citizens. Our police are supposed to enforce the law, and many do the exact opposite. Our policymakers are sworn in to defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States, but at the same, they do the opposite. When any of our amendments get taken away, we often protest, and many times it is violent. Our voices are meaningless, and many people move towards violence when they feel this way. In affirming the resolution, I offer the following contention. Contention number 1. You should always be able to defend yourself and others around yourself in times of political and government injustice. My reason for making this claim is to state that as a citizen, we're provided with the power to act against any wrongdoing from our leaders and law enforcers. Over the past couple decades, there has been an ongoing increase in civil injustice. When a police officer conducts a random search of a person of color just because he or she looks suspicious, then we are stripped of our basic rights. When an officer opens fire at an individual with no weapons, killing him or she and leaving family in ruins, this is the exact reason why violence should be justified during political oppression. What I'm trying to say is that during some instances, it is okay to act out and show a bit of emotion. It is okay to get physical. You're fighting for the rights of your people, the rights of your family, and ultimately the rights of your future generations. So yes, it is totally okay to act out during any political oppression. One perfect example of this is the Los Angeles riots of 1992. On April 29th, 4 officers were said to have used excessive force on American construction worker Rodney King. The 4 officers pled guilty, and the rest is history. Contention number 2. Without violence being justified, we would be where we are today. Without the Civil War, which was one of the bloodiest battles fought on American soil, where would we be? Would Black African Americans still be considered 3/5 of a person in terms of taxation and representation? I can tell you one thing, violence was the solution to most big problems in the US Civil War. In conclusion, both of my contentions reflect on my value criteria. In my value criteria, I've spoke about the basic fundamentals of the United States, which are democracy and the federal government, and how they relate to political oppression. If you really think about it, we fought for these fundamentals that create the United States. What I mean to say is, because violence, we're able to be a free country. We are able to speak what we want, believe in any religion, and many more. I've shown you that time after time, law enforcers and political leaders abuse their powers. We live in a country where hatred is clearly present. When we are scared, what do? Our voice is always the answer. I'm sorry to say it, but unfortunately, we live in a society where actions speak louder than words. What I mean by this is a voice doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore. You have to get to your point across in other forms such as violence, and in this topic, which is political oppression, I support it. I am all for Gandhi and his thoughts on violence, on non-violence, and nowhere in this debate do I mean to sound like I am for anarchy or violent revolution. I am simply saying that in times of political injustice,
Time.
Finish the sentence.
for these, I'm simply saying that in times of political injustice, we should be able to rebel against any wrongdoings.
Finish a word, much less a sentence.
I don't let it finish.
Minister or something?
I don't let it finish the word.
So, you stated that one of the most important definitions we are debating today is the United States, right?
Yes.
Where Could you mention some statistics where the violent campaigns have been successful in the United States?
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes. Could you provide me some statistics where violent campaigns have been more successful in the United States?
Well, in this debate, I really didn't focus on campaign. I focused on more of the majority of the problems that we had in the United States. As I stated, when the Civil War, maybe World War II gets into it, and even times of today, we got people like Rodney King. We have someone like Trayvon Martin, where they're murders.
Yeah, so
Here-
you don't have specific data that shows
Not at the
that
moment, I don't have any statistics.
violence is better than nonviolence?
Right.
No? Okay, you also mentioned that we need more than words in your case to prove our society that violence is better.
Yes,
That's
I did.
correct? Okay, so I'm asking you for that words. What words do you use?
What do you mean in words? I'm for
You said
I'm for
we
violence.
need
I'm not
more
for
than words.
the voices.
We need actions.
Actions,
Well,
that's-
what kind of actions do you think we need to imply?
Well, in
for our
instances like
society?
such as Trayvon Martin, where his murder was unjust, you absolutely you don't go to your words, right? Because they're meaningless. You go to violence because killing someone for no reason really doesn't, it gets the emotion out of you, if that makes any sense.
So you said that killing people, it doesn't make sense to kill people, so that's a type of violence.
It doesn't make sense to kill people when it is necessary, such as in this case.
And why do you believe it's necessary, killing people? Aren't we doing the same if we kill people, if we resort to violence?
Repeat that again?
Yes. So you're implying that it is okay to kill people for some reason, but if we as a society apply
Time.
Okay. As Mahatma Gandhi, an advocate for Indian civil rights, once expressed, I object violence because when it appears to be good, the good is only temporary. The evil it does is permanent. I negate the resolution resolved. Violence is a justified response to political oppression in the United States. In order to negate, I offer the value of justice, which is described by Cambridge Dictionary as the behavior or treatment that is fair and morally correct. The best criterion for evaluating this resolution is human rights, also defined by Cambridge Dictionary as the basic rights to fair and moral treatment that every person is believed to have. In negating today's resolution, I offer the following contentions. Contention 1, violent actions in practice lead to bad outcomes. According to Howie's 2013, the good intentions of keeping us safe, overthrowing a corrupt regime, punishing criminals, or defending freedom frequently end up being a catalog of excuses for violence that leads to more conflict and suffering and stands little chance for political success. People must acknowledge that violent campaigns can cause negative consequences to our society. Taylor 2012 argues that, beyond that measurable cost, violent causes pain and suffering can lead to chronic trauma, affect child development, and can increase the risk of chronic health outcomes later in life. As well, violence affects communities and societies, leading to losses in business sectors, financial divestment, and decreased burden of the healthcare and justice system. Beyond that, the advantages of military power over civilians are much greater than our capacity to fight back. According to Briefing 2016, governments now possess weapons of such destructive force and which are technically so far above the skills of common citizens that revolutions can no longer be successful based on the test of military power. Contention 2, on the other hand, nonviolent campaigns are more efficient than violent campaigns. Kendrick 2004 states that nonviolent campaigns have a 53% success rate and only about 20% rate of complete failure. Things are reversed for violent campaigns, which were only successful 23% of the time and complete failures about 60% of the time. I would like to state that nonviolent actions offer an alternative to violence for achieving justice, freedom, and peace. Sharp 1996 argues that nonviolent action is a technique for mobilizing and applying the potential power of people and grouping for pursuing objectives and interests by non-military weapons, psychological, political, social, economic, and spiritual. Nonviolent actions include protest, non-cooperation, and the intervention without physical violence. Rosa Parks' boycott is a clear example of a successful nonviolent campaign in the United States. According to Tom Brute, Rosa Parks, whose refusal half-century ago to give up her seat to a white passenger on a bus in Alabama, launched a new era in the civil rights movement. Parks' acts of disobedience against the segregation laws of the South united blacks behind a victorious boycott of the Montgomery bus system and led to a landmark Supreme Court ruling against the institutionalized racism. Rosa Parks, the mother of the civil rights movement was an advocate for non-violence at the time when violence penetrated every level of our society. Thousands of blacks walked to work or school or took black-owned taxis. Buses ran their routes with few passengers, given that blacks made up more than 2/3 of the bus system riders. For 381 days, 42,000 blacks refused to ride public transportation in the United States. The U.S. Supreme Court not only overturned Park's fine, but ordered the end of the segregation in the Montgomery bus system. The impact is that society can achieve justice in a more human and moral way. Thank you.
Could you state your bio criteria, please?
Of course. My value criteria is human rights.
Can you state the definition, please?
Yes, the basic rights to fair and moral treatment that every person is believed to have.
Okay. So in your contention one, you pretty much said that violent protests are bad, am I right?
Yes.
So, would you say that we should take away gun rights? Is it okay to take away the Second Amendment? You know, the rights of the people to bear arms to protect themselves?
Well, it
Should we
depends.
take away the right, or should we just go against the Constitution
It
of the United
depends.
States?
If you
which states
think
the Second
about the
Amendment?
things that are happening in the United States with guns, for instance, in the Nevada massacre that had the last years, or in Florida, or all those states that have been suffering because of violence and guns, I don't think that guns are good or violence are good for our society.
So you're okay with the government or anyone in general just taking away rights?
Not rights, because it is our right to defend ourselves, but
Absolutely.
we have to choose a better way to defend ourselves.
Absolutely, and would you agree with me that it's the person that kills, not the gun?
It depends, because it's the person who shoots, not the gun by
Okay.
itself.
But you need the person to shoot, right?
Exactly.
So you said you're against violence, but then again, you want to take the guns. You're okay with guns being taken away because they're said to be violent.
Well, I didn't specific that I was against guns. I
Well, you're against
specific that I
violence
was
and-
violence
and-
in general.
Well, you're against violence, and nowadays guns are said to be
Yeah.
supposed to be violent, but
Yes.
in actuality, it's
And-
the person.
Yeah, but
So-
for oppression in the United States, as I have stated before, government has more power.
That is not right.
It
Under
is.
democracy, it says that people have the power, not the government.
Well, if, for instance, if you take it to a single
Time.
case,
Mental and self-firing.
Right. Am I allowed prep time?
I haven't been giving any in either classes or here. A minute,
May I get a minute? Yep.
overruled by the deans.
You may also ask for a minute of prep time at any point.
It's not a dean thing, it's a non-church thing.
Oh, no. All right, she's right, but still. I don't think there are professional debaters. Oh, wait, yes, there are. They're called rich people, yeah.
Politicians.
Okay.
Ready?
So yes, I have two reasons why you guys should vote for me. One of the reasons is my opponent only gives her opinion on nonviolence, and I actually give both opinions. Second reason is my value of the United States is superior to hers because mine talks about not only the ideology, which is the democracy, but also talks about the practice, which is through the federal government. So it kind of ties with each other, and not only that, but I believe that my value criteria ties in with my first contention because it talks about these high-ranking politicians and the law enforcers are taking the rights each and every day from citizens. I also believe that or her example is actually value my value criteria more than it does her because in actuality you said Rosa Parks, right?
yes.
Rosa Parks and MLK both have the right to speak in front of others because people die for this country. So, in actuality, blood, even to this day, blood is shed for our rights, our right to be, to speak whatever we want, our rights to be freedom of religion, even the Second Amendment. People are fighting and are dying due to this. And for those reasons, I believe you should vote for me. Thank you.
As I have argued, there are many alternatives for our society to achieve justice. Violence is not one of them. People must analyze the negative impact violence has in our lives. And beyond that, at the present moment, society cannot revolt applying violence because of the advantages military power has over civilians. Our best option to achieve justice, equality, and why not, freedom and peace, is to resort to non-violent campaigns, which ironically have been proven to be more efficient than violent campaigns. My opponent failed in giving me some statistics to prove that violence is actually better. So I did give you information about that. Non-violent campaigns have been proven to be successful 23% of the time. And as I also stated, non-violent actions can lead to more success or to achieve justice. The boycott of Rosa Parks was not that she stood up, or the boycott was a great action to take because of the economic issues that caused to the government at that moment, because money talks. So that's what happened exactly. And my opponent also stated that guns kill people, and he was in favor of that, because we know that violence leads to killing people. So I offer a better solution for our society to actually do something, speaking up, or doing protests, or non-violent actions in general. Thank you.